All right, Linda, so you go ahead and ask the questions, then I'll show you how to find the information using this report.
Yep, and this is what, well, okay, we started in the right-hand side. I remember this on the right hand, I had to turn it on. I know that it had to be on, but we're gonna designate ARPA only in that.
Oh, yeah, so what are we trying to find right now?
We're going to try to find the number of rents that were done between third quarter. So it'd be from July 1 of 23 to September 30th of 23. And it would be rents that were paid by ARPA, and that's it. Dates, rents, and total number.
All right, so first what we got to do is we got to go to this section, service date, and we got to choose the date.
Right.
So you could use this thing right here, but I actually prefer to type it in. You could just come over here and you could type, and it's a little slow because it's an internet connection thing. So you just kind of, I'll show you here kind of how, see how it has a.
And I started clicking on the X and going to the calendar, and it worked for me. But
yeah, it does work, but sometimes there's a little lag because it's a network thing. And so then it's September 30th, you said?
Yes.
So we can just go here, September 30th.
Yep.
And so you can see here, this updates dynamically. So there's no pressing enter or anything. You can just choose the date. So now we have our date range for our quarter. So now we could do the other thing. So like if it's for ARPA, we could turn on funded by, and you could do two things. You could uncheck these ones, just so ARPA's highlighted here, so it's just the only selected one, or you could just deselect all like that and then choose ARPA.
That's how okay, but the other is okay.
And then if you want only approved rents, because that's what you want for reporting, you could deselect all here on status and choose approved.
Right.
And then when we go down here to the bottom, we can say that help type requested. This does two things. One, it tells us it's rent, but it'll also ensure there's no duplicates for people that have entered and denied and then were entered again. It's only showing just for rents and just approvals. So here we have 32 entries.
Correct. That's what I got.
Okay. So right here.
And I can tell you, just for interest here, I had the paper records as a backup, and these are people were one under that, but I couldn't figure out why. So one is not huge. I only have 31, but I couldn't figure it out. And it's got to be something in the input that was done on those 31 people. But this is good. Just to give you an idea, on the report that goes to the city, there is a line item that is third quarter. So what the contract tells us, we project how many people we're going to help. And then this is the actual. And so under, it's called the units of service. And that is what this is. This represents how many families we had projected under the contract that we would help in the third quarter with ARPA funds.
And you can, and you can see here, you got these other entries are grayed out, but this is what we're looking at here. So you can see it's rent 32 people.
Yep.
And then, and here's the total funds dispersed compared to the amount promised. So if there's a no return or someone didn't come back.
Right. And that amount, can I, let's see, this is, there we go. I just moved it. So the amount of funds that we had to spend, so at the very front of the report, there is a rent and dollar amount that are allocated for the third quarter, which is a half of what, well, Howard knows this. So it's $12,307.50. Doesn't, is what the ARPA funds. So we exceeded that. And that's what this tells you.
Yep.
the amount dispersed, and it's pretty darn close. Okay, and that is a line item on the front of the report to the city in order for us to submit a reimbursement request.
Head of household. I
Yeah.
can see that you went in, and even last time we looked at it, you've updated this a lot. So
I've updated it considerable because it
Yeah.
just isn't something that we've been trained well on. Everybody's learning not you, but just practicing, getting all of that
Yeah.
data in. But that head of household has been left blank because we didn't talk about putting it in. And that is one of the line items that is included, head of household. So they ask single male head of household and single female. So only those two categories. And so these numbers are important. And it was 17 for single female head of household and 7 for male. It's not going to equal, but it's very, it gives them an idea. That's how they identified, because some people will put it's the no single household only. Yeah.
Right, because they're in a relationship or something, so they're not single head of household. Yeah. Your house, we had talked about this a little bit about the age range.
Right.
So this is non-duplicated values for household, right? So this is the sum total. So if you wanted age range, it's just split up by female and male. So I still got to add the other one if you wanted it still, but so like this would be 12, right? And this would be 26 if you wanted to combine them. You just got to do a lot.
And it's considered that line on the report is called the unduplicated count of persons assisted. So it's a sum of the female and male.
Yeah.
We talked about that in the previous reports, just for, I don't know if you're interested, the Howard and Joni, we used to have to report by age, and now we only need a complete, just a full number of those 32 households. How many people does that represent? And it should add up to 77. So that's where we're at. And that was from adding those together. It's pretty quick because they're small numbers. Worked fine because they match. Demographics are broken down on line item for the quarterly report in the categories listed here. And so it's just a matter of putting the numbers onto the report. And it matched up. It came up to 73. So here's like, okay, somewhere there was 4 people that we didn't capture correctly for some reason. Do you know what I mean? If there were 4 people in the household and we only showed one person's ethnicity, we missed 3 of them somewhere, but it's close.
And that was pretty prevalent in the Excel spreadsheets too, right? I was saying, because the data issue entries that kind of travel over to this too, right? You don't really fix the data entry issues.
Yes, and that's kind of part of it. And just of interest, the City of Federal Waves report does not report, they don't report Hispanic. We have the category for Hispanic, but it's reported as a subset. And I talked to them about it. So actually that was reported under the other multiracial, and then you go over one column and you make the 6 a subset.
Yeah, so it's still there. You just got to put in a different column on your report.
It's a little bit different column, but it doesn't have its own column. And it's okay because if you know how to turn, I don't think that needs to be changed, but that's why Hispanic is not on the report, on the Federal Way report. And so that column, it looked like it was a subset. There were 10 people in the other multiracial, and then the next column over, it shows Hispanic 6 as a subset of other.
Yeah. And we needed these other ones to capture the old data because I had added these 4 were the new additions from the ARPA
Right.
report. And these
And that,
other ones
that-
are what on your older reports.
yeah,
So,
that's correct. We might have to update the client sheet a little bit, but it follows pretty well. It follows correctly, I think.
yeah, and this is just the last one we have is the percent of monthly median income.
Yeah, and this was very interesting. So there is a line item on the Federal Way report called income. And in the quarter report, each quarter report, they have what they call a moderate column, which is 51 to 80% of median, and we have none of. There's an extremely low, and then there's a low. And actually, this report, we picked up 26 in the extremely low, and just 1 that was in low.
What is green?
That. And then the green is, well, the green was no data, or was it? Oh, you have a
No,
green dot
this
up
is
there.
no data. This green should be moderate. I don't know why it's showing up blank. I gotta look into that, but that's
Because
the moderate.
that would be moderate.
Yeah.
Well, I only took the low and the, okay, that's good to know, because somewhere then we had a moderate was 51 to 80% of
We got
median,
extremely low.
which is not
low.
really where we come in at. And I don't know who those 4 would be. That was a good question. Thanks, Howard. I meant that. I couldn't. You think that would have been moderate?
Yeah, it has to be, because above these are approved and above moderates, I think are marked ineligible, right?
So that would make that would make exactly 31 because it's based on household. And when you go back to the 32, which was the number of households, then the 26 and the 30, and then the last one is 31. So it matches the 32.
Yeah, this is 32 right here. There's one that has no data. So that means there's an application that was approved, but no annual income was entered.
Was entered, yeah. Okay.
So was there any other information on the report that this is not capturing?
No.
No. Okay. So I just want to do a quick recap of the things here for the sake of the recording, and then we could probably stop the recording so it's not too long to try to watch. So just over here again, we'll start from the top. So the funded by section. If you're looking for ARPA reporting, you just ensure that it is the only selected box. So when it starts up, it'll look like this. So you could just select this twice, so it deselects everything, then select ARPA. On status, they're all chosen by default, so you could just deselect them and then choose approved. For service date, based on the quarter, you just in the start of the month and the last day of the end of the quarter. And that's a range. Ignore the time. It's in there because it's part of the information that's captured, but we don't need it. So just don't mess with that. Just mess with the dates. And don't ever mess with the time zone here. It's set for Pacific time zone. And if you mess with it, it will, it'll throw your dates off because you'll be somewhere else.
Okay.
And then inclusive is always checked because you want that date as well. If it would, those would be the bounds. It wouldn't count the first or the last day. So just make sure inclusive. It is marked by default, but if you're ever playing around, just make sure that that's checked if you accidentally uncheck it. And then help requested is a pretty obvious one, but if you could just filter by everyone are the type of help that's requested. So in this case, for ARPA reporting, it's rent.
And what are those 2 categories, null and missing and empty string?
So null means that it's no data was entered and there's nothing there. Empty string means that it's empty, like there's an entry, but it's a blank entry. So that's kind of like some coding stuff. That's why you have these different things, because null means nothing was entered, not even an empty. But on some of them, like if someone went to hit enter, then backspaced, and then approved it, that's an empty string because there's actually empty text entered and not just nothing.
You've got the dates in there. Gary, would you go back up to and take out ARPA, but keep the dates?
Yep.
So
So
we
if we
wanna-
just
we
select
wanna
them all,
Turn that off totally. And so
yeah, we could, yeah, exactly. You
Oh.
can just turn it off. Yep.
okay, we want
Right there.
approved, and then we have the third quarter, and you go back down to rent only.
Yep. Rent still selected.
And then it came up, so that's correct, actually. That's pretty, that gives you the total number of approved. It's a little bit bigger, it's not much bigger, but there were two people, this is for Howard and Johnny, there were actually two, one was in Auburn and one was not in the city of Federal Way. It was unincorporated King County, and these ARPA funds, the people have to live within the boundary of the city of Federal Way. There were 3 people, let's see, so that would be 6, 7, 8. There were 3 people who we didn't get receipts back, which are, that's another thing, but you have to have documentation to back up any funds that we ask for reimbursement. But with the numbers that were ARPA approved, we have more funds than, so they do ask for how many total. And I did use the total number also.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
Yeah.